Hey guys, I wanted to do something today that kind of addresses a comment that I got on one of my videos. And I'm not going to call out the exact comment because I don't want anyone to feel weird about it. But the comment essentially asked that when it comes to a relationship, if you've got to put so much work on repairing it, is it really worth repairing? If I've got to create so much emotional safety, or if I've got to provide so much space, is it really worth the effort putting it in the first place? So in this video, I want to talk about, is your relationship really worth putting in the energy into repairing? So I'm doing things a little bit differently today, so I apologize. I've got my notes in front of me, so I'll be looking at them. But this question kind of comes up a lot in my comments, in my emails, or when I'm talking to people who want to become a member. One of the questions that people ask me is some form of, can my relationship be saved? But the thing that I've realized is that they're not asking if the relationship can be saved, because they wouldn't be talking to me if they think that it wasn't. What I realize is that people are asking, is the cost of saving my relationship going to be worth it? So I think most people understand that there's going to be some energy to put in. And, a lot of people have this idea of a relationship should be easy. If I've got to put in all this energy, is it really going to be a good relationship long-term? Is it really going to be worthwhile? Or am I always going to have to put in this extra energy, the energy that I'm putting in to repair the relationship? Am I going to have to just keep on sinking more and more cost into this? And essentially, I think that what a lot of people are ultimately asking themselves when it comes to repairing a relationship or trying to get an ex back is my relationship a write-off? When you think about a car being written off, it means that the cost of repairing the car is worth more than the car is actually worth, if that makes sense. So a lot of people are kind of asking that same question. Is my relationship a write-off? They're not asking if it can be repaired. They're asking if the amount of effort and cost that it's going to take to repair it, is it going to be worth what I get back from it? Which, again, we're human beings. There's nothing wrong with having these thoughts, but I want to sort of address why it's not necessarily the right question to be asking when you're trying to repair a relationship. And I also want to say straight off the bat that I know that I'm going to talk about this in terms of a car analogy, and I know that this analogy is not perfect, but I'm going to go for it anyway because it's the best way at this moment in time that I can kind of describe the repair process. But if you're someone who is ready to jump on the keyboard and talk about how this is not a perfect analogy, or they want to pull these holes in, I get it. Feel free to leave your comment. Check out one of my other videos, or maybe feel free to check out a different channel. I won't be offended either way. So I just want to say that off the bat. I know that this is not a perfect analogy. However, I want to talk about the maintenance gap. So in terms of a relationship, understanding that most relationships that end up in a difficult situation end up there as a result of not doing the standard sort of maintenance. So if you think about car maintenance, most relationships require, at the very least, some sort of maintenance. We're not taught maintenance. We're not taught how to manage relationships, how to cultivate relationships. So most people don't even understand that you need to, at the very least, maintain a relationship. So what usually happens is that people enter a relationship like they would do with kind of a first-time car, and they don't understand that the oil that you put in affects the car engine, the fuel that you put in affects the car engine, the quality of tires affects the way the car runs. There are so many small things that if all of these are just left unchecked, they all build up, they all degrade over time because there's no maintenance whatsoever. And if you don't even understand and know what maintenance is, then this is definitely going to happen at some point. It's inevitable that this will happen. So most of the time when it comes to relationships, it's that lack of maintenance, the lack of understanding and skill to be able to actually maintain and build that relationship that leads to the breakdown of the relationship. So it's an accumulation of many, many, many small issues rather than just a straight up crash, right? So this is usually what happens. But it's also a matter of a really ineffective dynamic. So every relationship has a dynamic. Learning how to effectively run that dynamic, to lead that dynamic into a direction that works well for both of you is absolutely essential. Yes, every relationship is different, but every relationship still runs on the same principles. You know, on this channel, I talk about emotional safety, intellectual intimacy, and goal synergy. Once you master those three principles, then it doesn't matter what relationship you're in, you will still be able to turn that relationship into a thriving relationship. So it's not just understanding the engine of the car and the maintenance of the car, it's actually understanding how to drive. The way that you drive will impact the car and the way that it ends up. So it's the same with relationships. So a car being damaged over time is not the car's fault. It's a matter of learning how to drive it and how to maintain it. And if you don't understand these two things along the way, then what's going to happen is that you skip the basic maintenance tasks. So you're skipping the $100 tire rotation, or you're cheaping out on the oil. So you're saving a little bit of money now, but it's going to have an impact further down the line. And all of these skipped costs end up building up to a much bigger repair cost at the end than it would have cost to just maintain it well along the way. And that's the difference here, is that every single relationship as a coach that I come across has not been in a car crash. It is usually just a lack of maintenance because people don't know how to maintain a relationship. So all of these repair costs build up over time. And instead of paying $1,000 over the lifetime of the car's life, then you end up paying $5,000 or $10,000 to repair a car because it's not being maintained properly. And this is most relationships that I come across. And then what happens is at this point, then suddenly the cost becomes a massive problem. It suddenly feels expensive because that cost has become very, very high. And this is where a lot of people on my channel end up, is that they get to a point where the relationship has broken down and maybe the partner is saying, hey, I need some space, or I don't want to be in this relationship right now. And then suddenly they get into this mode of, wow, I feel like it's going to take a lot of energy and time to repair this. Is it going to be worth it? And that's, I can understand the biggest worry for people. But it's really important to understand how that cost became high in the first place. Now, the cost feels high at this point, but that's still because most people still don't understand how a car engine works. They don't understand how to drive. So it feels like a massive investment. So then we come on to the repair bill. So again, just understanding that if a car has been neglected, to get it back on the road, there is going to be a higher repair cost, right? Because of the lack of maintenance. And again, I can understand how daunting this can feel. A lot of people can feel like this cost is very, very high. And it's also not going to be instantaneous. There's going to be a higher cost. The car is going to be off the road for a while you're doing this. So I can totally understand why it would feel really daunting when it comes to the repair bill. But again, it's not just about repairing the relationship. It's also about learning how to change the dynamic so that this doesn't happen again. So again, it feels like there's a more of a cost as well. Otherwise, you're just going to have the same sort of habits along the way. So that repair bill is not just about lack of maintenance, but it's also, I need to learn how a car works in order to make sure that I'm driving it and maintaining it properly. So it feels like there's a bigger cost right now. So again, I can understand how daunting that it can feel to do this. And that's where people start to get into a doubtful mind of, is it going to be worth it? Is this repair bill too high right now? And then they start to think about the car, the relationship, and they start to think, the amount of energy that I put in, like what is this car's potential? What is this car actually going to run as at its best? And this is the thing that catches most people out, is that they become blinded by the current state of the car, of the relationship. And they look at it as of right now and think, even if I repair the relationship, it feels like it's always just going to run badly. And they get this very blinkered view of how the relationship has been. And they look at the 2 months around a breakup or a difficult part and they think, it kind of was always like that. They convince themselves that the relationship was always a bad relationship and actually maybe I just need to find a new relationship. But the question that most people don't ask themselves is, have I seen my relationship run at its best? Have I actually seen how well the relationship can run? And bear that in mind as a question of, if you didn't know how to maintain a relationship, you also didn't have very strong driving skills, and that's why the relationship has ended up in this place. Have you really actually seen the true potential of that relationship? Have you seen this relationship run at its absolute best? So then people get to that point of, do I pay this repair bill? Do I repair the relationship? Do I invest this time and energy into cultivating this new relationship? Or is it a write-off and do I just get a new car? So again, I can understand why people get to this place of, maybe it's just best that I choose a different relationship. And I see people battle back and forth with this, in the comments or in my emails or things like that, is when they get in their head, they come up with a lot of reasons why I'll just jump into this new relationship. I'll just walk away from my old relationship, etc. The truth is that most relationships are not the write-off that people think they are. They just feel like that when you get the sticker shock of the repair bill. And I want to talk about why most relationships aren't a write-off. Because most people don't ask themselves the right questions when it comes to repairing a relationship. Again, on the car analogy, do I understand how a car engine actually works? So when it comes to the relationship, do I understand how relationships actually work? Do I have an objective point of view of any relationship that I am in, whether it's friends and family, whether it's a romantic relationship? Am I able to have an objective point of view of that relationship and understand how to cultivate that relationship, how to actually make that relationship into its best version? Or do I still fall for blaming my partner? This is one of the basic things that people fall into, is this idea of blame. When they look at their relationship and they say, oh, it's my partner's fault. But then another question to ask yourself is, do I have all the right tools to repair? So like with a car, do you actually have the right tools to repair that car? Or are you just simply excusing the fact that you haven't got those tools and therefore you're just going to buy a new car, but then you still do not have the tools in order to maintain that car, right? So every relationship has its challenges. There's no relationship on this planet that does not have some sort of challenge. After every honeymoon period in a relationship, because you are two different people, there are moments of conflict. And conflict is really important for relationships. Every relationship has to have conflict. I've actually done a deeper dive video on conflict, which I'll link to on the screen and in the description down below. Every relationship has to have conflict in order for it to grow. But most people don't actually have the tools in order to turn conflict into growth. Most people just try to avoid conflict, and then their relationship ends up in a unmaintained state, right? Asking yourself, do I actually have the tools to repair? Do I have the tools to face those conflict challenges in order to turn them into growth for both parties in the relationship? And if you don't have those tools, what are you doing in order to get them? At the end of the day, whether you have a new car or you have the same car and you're repairing that, it still requires those same tools in order to be able to tune up that car and make it thrive in the future. But it's not just a question of those tools, of what tools you have. The question is, have I mastered those tools? So if I do have those tools right now, am I using them to a very high level? Have I learned them and mastered them in order to have the confidence that I know how to not just maintain the car, but how to tune it up, make it into a supercar, make it into a Bugatti, Maserati, whatever the best car on the market is right now. Probably not the Mini Cooper that's in this picture here. And with those tools, if I do feel like I mastered those tools, would my partner agree? And this is the big question, is that, we can convince ourselves of something. We can convince that, yeah, I've got all the tools, I mastered them, I've done everything that I can. Ask yourself, would my partner agree? Not just would my partner agree, but would somebody objective agree? Would somebody from the outside in, would I agree? Would someone who had no dog in the fight, no preconceived bias, be able to objectively look and say 100% yes? Not friends, not family, but someone objective. That's a really important question to ask. So again, I can understand that no one really wants to look at their own faults. No one really wants to look at their own weak points, but it's really important to do in this situation, especially if you are considering a new relationship. Going into a new relationship is going to require the same tools to the same standard as this current relationship. And this is something that's really important to note, is that the tools required to repair a relationship are the same tools that are required to maintain a new relationship. And it has to be done to the same standard. So the best thing you can do in this situation right now is to make sure that you do truly understand how relationships work, that you are not missing any of the tools to repair, to maintain a relationship, and that you have actually mastered those tools. Because whether it's this relationship or a future relationship, those tools are still the same, and they still require the same skill set and mastery level in order to make sure that you are not just maintaining a relationship, but you're actually tuning it and making it thrive. And that is the difference. That is taking a car to turn it into a supercar. The biggest shame would be to move on to a new relationship, and worst case scenario, not learning anything and ending up in the same way. But even a middle of the road scenario, just maintaining it, both you and your partner deserve much better. You both deserve a relationship that's not just being maintained, but is actually thriving for both of you. And that involves deep learning, deep skill building, and mastery of these tools. And that's why, when I talk with people, is that I try to get them to see how much of a huge opportunity it is when there's a wobble in the relationship or a difficult time or, even a breakup. It's a perfect opportunity to lean in and master all of these tools. And, this is what I work on with members, is not just about repairing a relationship. This is about mastering tools. This is about self-mastery, so that you're learning these tools to a very, very high level. You deserve a good relationship. Your partner deserves a good relationship. People around you, you all deserve a great relationship. And that involves learning the right tools. So being able to learn those tools and master them will allow you to cultivate very, very high standard relationships. And this is what I work on with all of my members, is learning those tools yourself, making those changes in order to cultivate whatever relationship you want. And selfishly, that's why I love doing what I do, because relationships are skill building. Relationships are all about skill building, finding those blind spots, leveling up and mastering those skills in order to cultivate whatever relationship you want. This has a massive impact on your entire life. Life is relationships, especially in a world of AI. Sorry if I get passionate about it, but these skills are really important, and having these skills is going to become more and more important. So if you do want to start your journey and you want to join us, then feel free to join my Relationship Bootcamp. It's free. This is where all my members start learning the fundamentals of relationships, on how to repair, how to rebuild, and cultivate those relationships that you want. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to join us. So now is a perfect time to not just learn the right skills, but to master those skills in order to cultivate the relationship that you want. And, like I said, this is not just about avoiding conflict. This is one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is that they think that it's simply a matter of never having any conflicts in a relationship. But that's not what relationship skills are. It's about being able to navigate that conflict. Like I said, I've done a deeper dive video, which I'll link to on the screen, but learning to navigate conflict and being able to turn it into a win-win for both you and your partner, or you and the other person, is one of the absolute fundamental relationship skills to learn. So I'm going to leave you with that deeper dive video, and I will see you over there.